Welcome to the High Level Wife Podcast. This is a space for Christian wives who love God, want their marriage healed, and are done performing, fixing, striving, or trying to control their way to change. Here we're going to talk about marriage God's way through right order, surrender, heart posture, and spirit-led transformation. This is not self-help, it's discipleship. My name is Chelsey Holm, and my role is to help you move from awareness into obedience so real healing, wholeness, and restoration can take root. Let's begin. Welcome back to the High Level Wife Podcast. I'm Chelsey Holm, and today I want to challenge something that many wives accidentally do. We assume I've been married for years. I know him. Really? Because people change. I mean, look at who you were when you first met your spouse, when you first got married, right? And then look at who you are today, where you are today, everything that you've learned, all the experience you've gained, and hopefully the wisdom that has increased in your life, right? Because people do change, people mature, people go through seasons. And, one of the biggest mistakes that I see couples make and that I made in my own marriage was we stopped studying each other. So how do we become more like Jesus? Well, we study him, we draw near to him, we observe him, we remain curious, we stay close to him, right? Think of the spiritual disciplines that you hear me talking about all the time. Solitude, prayer, in his word, worshiping him, Sabbath, all of these things, right? What's the point of all of them? It's to foster intimacy with the Father and with our Savior. So why would we assume that we no longer need to learn our spouse? Here's a big truth bomb for you. It's because love pays attention. Assumption creates distance. Curiosity creates connection. So let's talk about, I'm going to break this down into several parts, but part one is to study his pattern. Stop asking, why is he doing this? And start asking instead, what pattern am I seeing? Study stress responses, communication patterns, shutdown patterns. What energizes him? What drains him? What brings peace? What creates pressure? Does he need space when he's stressed? Does he need movement? Does he need problem solving? Does he need quiet? Right? Like, you know what your stress responses are and your go-tos are and how you need to handle those things. But what is it for your husband? Right? Can you become an expert in this? And now I do want to throw out a caution here. When I talk about studying your spouse, right? What we focus on, we will find. And so we're not focusing on these things to change him. We are focusing on these areas so that we can be a better support to him. Right? There was a time where two quick examples that when we were in the car or my husband was using the bathroom, I would corner him and want to have just like ask him questions or have deeper conversations because he couldn't escape. Right. And it was not the right time or the right place. And so I had to learn that. Another example is when my husband would walk in the door, I would immediately greet him. Yes, that's good. But then I would launch into all of the questions or concerns or all of the things that I had for the day. And it was like I wasn't giving him any time to decompress. So studying our husband in this way helps us to be a better support for him. Okay, let's move to the second one, part two. So study what makes him feel respected. So generally speaking, men often thrive when they feel respected, trusted, believed in, useful, admired, wanted. And it's not because they're fragile. It's because God designed men with responsibility and mission and purpose. Our husbands carry a mantle that we cannot bear as wives, as women. Gosh, words are hard today. They crush us. Because that's not what God created us to do. So ask, what makes him feel appreciated? What makes him feel respected? What makes him feel useful or pursued or believed in? Do you know? Right? It might not be the same things today that it was when you were first dating or early on in marriage. So get to know these things, study these things in your husband. So part three, study his current season. And this is huge. Your husband today is not your husband 10 years ago. So ask, what pressure is he under? What is he carrying? What is changing? What is exhausting him? What is exciting him? right? What's going on in business, in the workplace? What's going on in his, you know, extended family? What's going on in all of the areas that he is a part of? And how can you, knowing these things, support him? And this isn't to manage his emotions or try to regulate him yourself. It's no, it's simply to be a better support to him, to know how you can lift him up, to know how you can create more space for him. And it's how can you bring life into situations where the life is being drained from him. The fourth thing here is to create conditions for flourishing because you cannot control him, sanctify him, fix him, or force growth. There's a passage about new wine in old wineskins. And what happens is if you put new wine into old wineskins, you will burst them. And so often, like this is exactly what it is to try to control your husband into growth of how you think he should be. You're forcing new wine into old wineskins and you're going to damage it. God is the one who makes the new wineskins to go along with the new wine that he's producing in your husband. But that's not your focus, okay? That's God's thing. You simply are to create the space and create the conditions for him to flourish and to you yourself be surrendered to God's pressing of you into new wine and creating the new wineskins in you. Okay, but you can influence. You can influence safety, peace, encouragement, connection, atmosphere. So often wives don't realize how much criticism and attack and question your husbands are on as soon as they leave your home, right? In the business world, it's dog eat dog, right? And and they're also men of integrity. So they're navigating that as well of how to show up as a man of faith and a man of integrity in a place that is dominated by the flesh and success. So, how is your home a place that speaks life and not death over them? How is your home and the space you're creating a place where they aren't criticized or questioned in those same senses? So some practical ways that you can do this is to build him verbally. So instead of saying you never, try instead to say, I noticed, right? It's such a simple shift. It's one word, well, two words, you never, or I noticed. And it takes, because when you show up in a conversation, you say you dot, 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 immediately anyone that you're talking to is going to go on the defense. And that disrupts connection and it hinders that connection and it puts someone into a defense mode, right? Where they're preparing for attack. So you need to focus on building belief. Men often rise toward belief. So tell him what you appreciate, where you see growth, what you admire. Build friendship, do things together, laugh, create margin, be curious. Build connection intentionally. Ask him, what's been heavy lately? What are you excited about? How can I support you? Right? That's a simple thing that my husband and I do. Before he goes to work, or I'll text him later in the day if he left really early to get his workout in. I'll just say, hey, what can I do for you today that would take some pressure off your plate? Is there anything I can accomplish for you? My husband loves yard work. I'm not as great with yard work, but we want to put down some spray for mosquitoes. Like the bugs have been crazy and the ticks have been so bad. And I told him, I was like, it's not a super intricate thing. I was like, I could probably do that for you. And he was like, well, I know you don't like chemicals and, it's really not that big of a deal. But like just little things like that. Like, are there things that you can help take off your husband's plate that, um, that really help him to focus where his energy is best used, right? So the last thing here is to stop personalizing everything, right? Internalizing everything. And I will tell you, ladies, this is probably the biggest one that I struggle with as a former, I don't even know that I was a people pleaser. I used to think that I was I was a recovering people pleaser, but actually, what I did was I would manage people's emotions out of honestly just survival, right? Because if I could, help them feel better, or, if I could minimize the drastic emotional ups and downs, then that would be safer for me, right? It was a control thing, right? It was control, masked in people pleasing. So this is something that I still struggle with is taking what you're observing on personally and internalizing it. We can't do that, okay? So you have to be able to recognize those old patterns and disrupt them in yourself so that you can move freely. So sometimes his silence, it doesn't equal rejection, and his stress doesn't equal dislike, and his withdrawal doesn't equal hatred, okay? So replace that personalization or that internalization with observation. Just observe. And here's a big truth for you. Many wives want to be deeply understood, but they are not deeply studying, right? How often do we want to be understood, but we don't actually create the space to understand? So this week, become a student of your husband. Observe him, ask him questions, and get curious about him, right? When I was a girl, I loved horses, everything about them. I had books and I had movies and I had toy horses and I had real horses. I lived on a farm, so I had real horses. And like my friends and I, when we were in elementary school, like I'm not gonna lie, we were in sixth grade, y'all. Okay, kids today are much older than we were in sixth grade, mentally, and also fashionably. That's another story. But my friends and I in sixth grade, we used to play like we were horses on the playground. We would tromp around and we would jump over things, and we just had this whole thing. But it's because we all loved horses and we wanted to do everything with horses all the time. It's all we thought about, right? Now, God has to be first, okay? So I'm not telling you to put the order out, but take some of that, right? Take some of that excitement and turn it towards your husband from an overflow of intimacy with the Lord. Bring that into an intimacy in your marriage, to become a student, to observe him, to ask those questions and get curious. Because you cannot deeply love someone while refusing to deeply learn them. High-level marriages are not built by spouses who assume, and neither is anything that's worthwhile, right? You don't get fit by assuming you know how to get fit. No, you get in the gym and you do it consistently, right? You don't grow in the Lord and be sanctified by him without abiding in him consistently and daily, intentionally, right? These things are built with intention and discipline. They're built by spouses who never stop learning each other. I will see you in the next episode. If this episode stirred something in you, but high level wife feels like too big of a step right now, I want you to hear this clearly. You don't have to jump ahead to honor what God is doing. I created a short guided experience called From Awareness to Surrender for women who aren't ready for ongoing support but know they can't stay where they are. It includes 3 short teachings, a guided exercise, and a prayer I recorded over you. It's going to help you move from awareness into real response. You'll find the link in the show notes. And if you're not ready even for that, don't rush past this moment. Sit with God and ask him what obedience looks like next.